There are over 600 people on California death row. Dexter Williams, 28 years on death row. After assaulting and robbing several men that Williams and accomplices lured on the pretext of sex, Williams attacked and killed a man who had stopped for sex with a prostitute. Frank Becerra, 27 years on death row. Becerra, a drug dealer and gang member, was convicted of strangling to death two men over missing cocaine and injuring a third. The California Supreme Court in June 2016 reversed the conviction, contending Becerra had been refused his right to represent himself. Eric Bennett, 27 years on death row. Bennett essayed and robbed a woman living next door to him, and then killed another woman who had hired him to install flooring. Michael Bramett, 27 years on death row. Bramett shot and killed a man while attempting to rob him in his car. He told authorities he only meant to wound the victim. George Contreras, 27 years on death row. Contreras robbed and murdered a store owner. Jonathan Darcy, 27 years on death row. Darcy was working as a janitor when, mistakenly believing he had been shorted in his paycheck by a contract cleaning service, he doused the bookkeeper with gasoline and set her on fire, killing her. John Famalaro, 27 years on death row. Famalaro was convicted of kidnapping, sodomizing, and murdering a woman who went missing after attending a concert. Her body was found 3 years later in a freezer stashed in the back of a stolen truck. Carl Holmes, 27 years on death row. Gang members Holmes, Herbert McLean, and Lorenzo Newborn shot 3 teen boys to death on Halloween in Pasadena. Gunnar Lindbergh, 27 years on death row. Lindbergh, a white supremacist with a criminal history of robbery and assault, stabbed to death an Asian man who was rollerblading at a high school tennis court. Kendrick Lute, 27 years on death row. Lute killed 3 people, while accomplice Bruce Millsap killed 8 in a string of savage armored car holdups in Los Angeles in the 1990s. Bobby Lopez, 27 years on death row. Lopez and 2 other members of Nuestra Familia killed 7 other gang members for failing to pay a portion of drug sales to gang members in prison and for other infractions. Michael Martinez, 27 years on death row. Martinez at night entered the home of an acquaintance and essayed her 10-year-old daughter. When the mother returned home, he struck her on the head with a hammer and stabbed her to death with a kitchen knife. Jean McCurdy, 27 years on death row. McCurdy abducted an 8-year-old girl as she walked to a neighborhood market, killed her, and dumped her body in a creek. Herbert McLean, 27 years on death row. Gang members McLean, Carl Holmes, and Lorenzo Newborn shot 3 teen boys to death on Halloween in Pasadena. Ronald Mendoza, 27 years on death row. A street gang member on parole from the California Youth Authority, Mendoza killed a Pomona police officer who approached him for questioning as Mendoza and friends walked down a railroad track at night. Jeffrey Mills, 27 years on death row. Mills essayed and slit the throat of a woman he encountered walking along the side of an empty road late at night. She had gotten out of her own vehicle after an argument with her boyfriend. Joseph Montez, 27 years on death row. Montez and 3 others robbed and carjacked a 16-year-old boy, held him in the trunk while they drove to a party, and they shot him as he attempted to leave. Lorenzo Newborn, 27 years on death row. Gang members Newborn, Carl Holmes, and Herbert McLean shot 3 teen boys to death on Halloween in Pasadena. Ramon Rogers, 27 years on death row. Over 3 years, Rogers killed his apartment roommates, including his best friend and a woman with whom he had fathered children. Parts of 2 of the victims' bodies were found in various places, including a storage area beneath his apartment. Robert Scully, 27 years on death row. When he was released from Pelican Bay State Prison, Scully had orders from the Aryan Brotherhood to raise money from robberies. The next day, he killed a sheriff's deputy while he was scoping out a potential target. Daniel Silveria, 27 years on death row. Silveria and accomplice John Travis returned to the craft store where they had been fired, bound the owner to a chair with duct tape, then stabbed him 32 times and shocked him with a stun gun before stealing $8,000 from a store safe. A security camera captured the entire incident. Floyd Smith, 27 years on death row. Smith and accomplices killed an 18-year-old former high school football player. Smith pleaded guilty to shooting someone in a 1984 bank robbery. Brandon Taylor, 27 years on death row. Taylor essayed and killed an 80-year-old woman during the robbery of her house. John Travis, 27 years on death row. Again, Travis and accomplice Daniel Silveria robbed and killed their former boss. James Trujeque, 27 years on death row. Trujeque and 2 other members of Nuestra Familia killed 7 gang members for failing to pay a portion of drug sales to gang members in prison and for other infractions. Richard Valdez, 27 years on death row. Valdez followed orders from the Mexican mafia to kill a former gang member and killed the man's family as well, including a 5-year-old boy and a 6-month-old infant. His partner, Jimmy Palma, also was condemned but was stabbed to death 4 months later on the exercise yard at San Quentin. Sean Vines, 27 years on death row. Vines first robbed the McDonald's where he worked, then robbed another McDonald's and killed an employee during the holdup. Marcus Adams, 26 years on death row. A 6-Deuce Brim gang member, Adams was already serving life in prison for a Santa Barbara robbery homicide when he was sentenced to death for killing 3 young men in South Los Angeles in 1994 in a gang-related shooting. John Capistrano, 26 years on death row. In 1995, he strangled and cut the wrists of a man whose apartment he robbed, and in a second incident invaded the home of a couple, essaying the woman. In the same month, he invaded 2 more residences and attempted to kill 1 man by cutting his throat and beating his head with a baseball bat. Paul Carassi, 26 years on death row. On Mother's Day, he took his mother and his former girlfriend out to dinner at Universal Studios, then stabbed them to death in the parking garage in front of his 2-year-old son. His girlfriend at the time of the killings participated in the stabbings but was not condemned. William Clark, 26 years on death row. Though Clark shot no one, he was convicted of double murder for the shooting of a woman who walked in on his robbery of a computer store and the killing of a witness who could testify against him. His 2 accomplices, including the shooter, were sentenced to life without parole. Robert Edwards, 26 years on death row. Edwards essayed and strangled to death 2 women in Hawaii and California, including the mother of his girlfriend. Daniel Frederickson, 26 years on death row. Frederickson killed a store manager who refused to turn over cash during a robbery. Ivan Gonzalez, 26 years on death row. Meth addicts Ivan Gonzalez and his wife Veronica were both condemned for the torture and bedtime scalding death of their 3-year-old niece while the child's mother was in drug treatment. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.